The mom of a fourth grader says that her son was bullied for being gay. James Miles, a 9-year-old boy, committed suicide after being bullied for 4 consecutive days after coming out to his peers at school. Teachers need to recognize and report when a student is being bullied by his peers, especially over sexual orientation. If teachers are vigilant in shutting down homophobia, then future unfortunate incidents like this may be avoided. LGBTQ+ youth who have come out from rejecting families are 8.4 times more likely to have attempted suicide. One of those students could be in your class, so it's important to recognize the signs of depression and anxiety, such as trouble concentrating, fatigue, hopelessness, irritability, and many more. Students typically spend 8 hours of their time outside of the home environment, so it's important to instill in your students that while you are here, this is your safe haven. Anthony Avalos, a 10-year-old boy, came out as gay to his homophobic father in Southern California. The boy suffered from years of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse before he was ultimately killed for coming out by Cream Lavia. Lavia is reported to have said being around gay people made him uncomfortable. It is not only important for teachers to be able to recognize the signs of abuse, such as being withdrawn from friends or usual activity, frequent absences from school, rebellious outbursts and behavior, reluctance to go home, and many more. Teachers should be able to recognize these signs alongside the added danger homophobia brings in order to report this toxic environment and keep their students safe. John Ackerman, a clinical psychologist and suicide prevention coordinator for the Center for Suicide Prevention, says that 34% of gay, lesbian, and bisexual kids face bullying at school, which ultimately makes them more susceptible to suicidal behavior. In 2014, Lizzie Lowe took her own life out of fear of her church not accepting her for being gay. Since then, her church dynamics changed drastically. Her family says that the church has become inclusive, now accepting anyone regardless of gender, race, disability, or sexuality. Being inclusive shouldn't come at the cost of a life. Rather, teachers need to teach their students to embrace diversity rather than exclude it. The interview aspect of this iMovie, I wanted to interview someone who has gone through being gay in high school. The first question I asked was, what was your experience like in high school being gay? He said, I never had any bad experiences other than people talking behind my back, but I feel like that's pretty normal for everyone. In those cases, unfortunately, there is going to be gossiping and name-calling, so teachers need to be able to recognize the signs of bullying and be able to report it to the right people. The second question I asked was, what was your family's reaction? Do they know? If so, how did they react? He said, the majority of my family knows and are accepting of it, but I wasn't able to come out by myself. That last sentence is extremely important for teachers to recognize that students are going to need these supports when making the tough decision to come out to their families. They're going to need those resources, their supports, they're going to need to feel like someone is on their side, so teachers need to do that. The third question I asked was, what type of thoughts ran through your head when preparing to tell someone you were gay? He said, the only thought that ran through my head was whether or not people would look at me the same, which is unfortunately a lot of people's fears, and teachers need to essentially be able to educate the student body and their students essentially as a whole that they are the same person that they were. It's just that they just so happen to like boys, or they so happen to like girls, or they like both, and that's okay. The last question I asked was, what advice would you give to others who are afraid to come out? And he said, I recommend coming out to close friends first to kind of boost your confidence, I guess. And if someone doesn't accept you for who they are, don't waste your time on them. That is extremely important for school-aged kids to hear, because they need to feel as though they are not alone and that someone else has been through this experience that they have.